Quiet on set!
And action!
We're a bit over halfway through the year in a post-Nolan's The Odyssey world. And before fall film festival season begins, we are rounding out our favorite films of the year so far. And we also got some trailers to talk about, which we'll jump into straight ahead as like SDCC or whatever it's called is going on. San Diego Comic-Con. Anything worth spotlighting here, Kevin?
I'm not gonna lie, so many trailers came out this week. I only picked 3 personally. Coyote vs. Acme. Very happy this movie is coming out. It does look like it's gonna be a blast. Also a very interesting premise to have it be a cartoon movie, but then also a courtroom drama. So many elements. I think that movie is gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Other mommy, Jessica Chastain has always been like a fascinating actress for me to watch because she can be in the most odd shit of all time, and then she can still deliver in like something great. And I didn't watch it, but I heard from you that the Resident Evil trailer slapped. And I don't want to watch anything more of Resident Evil. The last trailer already sold me on it. I'm like, I want to be surprised, That's it.
It looked a lot of fun, so I'm down for that. That's by Zach Greger, director of Barbarian and Weapons, and seemingly looks quite promising to have a bit more of like a larger scale horror movie this year with a bit more of a production budget behind it, with a bit of IP backing it too. And the other mommy thing was also everyone who was watching The Odyssey was saying, oh, what the fuck was that trailer we saw ahead of it? Which is like, it was so telling, that reaction to that trailer, which isn't a crazy trailer. It's just like a normal ass horror movie trailer that they're like, the outrage was like, oh, The Odyssey is like so beyond the normie sphere and breached into that so many people who just make noise online felt like it was worth commenting on. But that's a book adaptation, by the way. That's why I spent so much time talking about it, because this guy could potentially read what it's based on. There was also the I'm just joking, Kevin. There's also the Avengers. It's not Secret War yet. What's it called?
It's Doomsday.
And reactions to that were basically for me as well. Is this a movie or what is it? Like, it looked just like a collection of not even moments, but just characters like on screen. And reports say like there's some rumblings that maybe they didn't really fully finish the script before they started shooting with Odyssey press stuff, and how Tom Holland is talking about like the sets of Marvel in comparison to like, oh yeah, with like everything is locked in. It's like nothing's different from the page to screen.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, on the Marvel sets, we sort of improvise. They like figure it out after the fact. I was like, yep. But I'm very interested. Next week we're gonna be having a full-on spoiler review, big on deep dive on the new Spider-Man film, and I'm keen for that one. But yeah, not this Avengers movie.
Can I just quickly say my favorite tweet out of the whole Doomsday trailer? It's like, you know what? You know why it's called Doomsday? Because I'm gonna watch Dune and then call it a day. And it's like, my guy, I would honestly have the same mentality. Was it just not for the fact that, the MCU was our childhood? So with an Avengers movie, it still carries the weight of I feel like the weight of the MCU has lost a little bit, but the title of an Avengers movie still...
You mean like the impact, maybe?
Yeah. It's like, okay, we are getting this gathering of characters, but the problem is, it's just that... So what my biggest fear, and from a couple of friends of mine, I've gotten this of course you hated this trailer. You want it to be a typical drama. And it's like, no, not really. But my concern is, it just looks like the plot is going to be so ass. And I can't really say it any other way. And the way that they're hoping to make up for it is to have this little cool moment. I mean, everybody was like, oh my God, Gambit versus Shang-Chi. But Gambit was supposed to be a jokey character, really, in Deadpool and Wolverine. And Shang-Chi, we haven't really seen besides this movie. So it's like, and all of these things coming together, is it going to be a reboot? Like, is the MCU sort of going to,
after Secret
nuclear...
Wars, I think he said, like, it's going to be very...
It's going to nuclear its own universe to be like, alright, and now we are in this one, no more of this multiverse bullshit. Yeah. So I'm curious to see... It's the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers' own projects, have bombed at all. But with their Marvel shit, I mean, they are still, like, what is it? They've done Winter Soldier, which is a good movie. Civil War, a good movie. And Infinity and Endgame. Like, both movies that delivered in their own special way. So in terms of their Marvel projects, they are still on track in that regard, but not with Cherry, Electric State. What was the other one? Gray Man. It's like, yeah, those movies are...
But I think it's also changed around them. Like, I think even if you look back at their Community episodes, they still hold up. They're still good. But I think we view them through a light of like this oversaturation of stuff. And their capabilities, I think, is something that similar to even the brothers, I forget their names, for the Duffer
Daniels?
Brothers. No, not the Daniels. Definitely not the Daniels. And I think they're not brothers either. But
but
the Duffer Brothers for Stranger Things and that sort of writing. I think that feeling that they have with these larger cast, sort of big stories, they haven't been hitting as of recent. So I don't know if like a script that is just based on there's two heroes and they initially fight because they don't know that they're actually working on the same side. That doing that like 5 times and then fighting against Doomsday.
You sent me that video. Yeah, no.
I don't know if that's going to be it. Like, and also because the movie's gonna look like hot doo-doo. If it were like stunning looking and interesting, then that it would be a wholly different thing. But
and the remark has already been put out there, but it's like we've gotten those teaser trailers, and the only teaser trailer that I adored, like I genuinely was like, oh shit, if this was the only thing they put out, I would be hyped for Avengers Doomsday. And that was the Thor one. The Thor one was excellent. And the Captain America one, I was like, again, because it's like the last time that we saw him, like Chris Evans' arc was perfect, right? And it also had been said like, oh,
in this trailer, he just looks like a random bloke. he just is standing there, takes the fucking, it's like it is taken the whole thing sort of from the little buckling, it might happen, to just like showing us fully. And I know he did it in Endgame, I think as well, right? He was like, boom, swinging it too. But it's just like everything about this doesn't feel special anymore to me. And that's not just growing up. I know you say we grew up with it, so it's that special thing. I think it goes beyond that because other IPs we've sort of seen tap into certain things and it worked still. But yeah.
Now, granted, I think a lot of people are quite praising Wonder Man. By the way, fun thing as well, people are posting that Black Mirror episode of Mackie and and it was to say like, oh my god, wait, this Avengers Doomsday clip. I haven't seen Wonder Man, but again, the last thing that I've seen is Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Loki. Like, those were the last 2 projects of MCU that really like excited me. And it is quite a shame that Feige is now saying, oh yeah, Loki is a mandatory watch. And it's like, fuck, they're gonna use Loki. Because again, I love the ending of Loki, sitting in that chair, sort of bound for the rest of time, but doing his job. And then bringing him back. When you see him in the trailer with the TVA thing, it's like, oh man, I didn't need Loki to be back. I didn't need Chris Evans to be back. And it's like, sure, you can bring back RDJ as Doom. I guess it's maybe a little bit interesting to see the same face from a different universe, but it's actually a villain. Like, I get that is maybe a good concept, but again, you haven't done any build up so far for it. It's the first that we really see of him. Like, sure, he was like touching the little kid in Fantastic Four. Yeah, but like with Thanos, it was like, he was in the Avengers, I think, as an end credit. Then he was in Guardians, he had an appearance, then in Avengers Age of Ultron. So like there was a little bit of a build-up.
The issue with this is that it's not just like the lacking build-up to this conclusion. It's that this isn't even a conclusion. Yes, it's part of a 2-parter, so it could be like that, but not even that. It is also in itself setting up a universe with the X-Men, with Fantastic Four entering this universe too. So it is more like a further stage set up for what's to come after than it feels like a conclusion to any sort of story that it's been building up to with these characters.
Like where with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, you feel like you arrived at the destination. With Doomsday, I sort of feel like I'm doing a stop at the gas station. You know? Like that's the feeling that I have.
Yeah. We're definitely gonna watch Dune before we're gonna watch this one in Infinity Vision, a true format.
And I've seen the House of Cinema part short of saying like what qualified as infinity vision. It's like any screen that's more than 45 feet, and then they looked up like what's a regular screen.
It was already the premium screens on the Dolby and stuff, like the same ones. They just like slap on that label. It's also one of the reasons why Dune was because people were saying like, oh, stuff that is missing from the Venice lineup. Check out a video for an overview for that. It's out on the channel. And there was a lacking amount, like, for example, Digger wasn't there, but also Dune, some people, like, I never expected Dune to be there, but the first Dune did play in Venice a couple years back, right? It actually did premiere there, so maybe people thought because it didn't have the release date in, like, spring, like, part 2, that part 3 might be there. I never even considered that. It doesn't need this festival. That boost is, like, actually a hindrance to. Venice is, like, beginning of September, and then you have Dune releasing in December. It doesn't really make sense to have a release that early into the festival, and it's not done yet. What they were saying is like one of the reasons that the festival director gave that stuff isn't there is just simply because it's not finished, not that there's a lack of interest here. I think with Dune, that's a bit of a scapegoat reason. I think they wouldn't have gotten in there regardless, but apparently Villeneuve said that, like, basically up until the release date, they'll be working on visuals because there's an intense, like, a crazy amount of, like, visual effects to be done there.
And I did see the Dune prologue because I went to the Odyssey on IMAX this Monday, and can I just say, it fucking looked great. I can definitely see the Saving Private Ryan comparisons in the little footage that I saw. They showed more at the CinemaCon, I think it was.
Yeah, but, and I'll be going to a cinema convention beginning of August, and I'm pretty sure that Warner Bros. Is going to show us a bunch of Dune there as well, but maybe even more. I'm very excited to be checking that out.
And I just know it's going to be so hard to get IMAX 70mm tickets for Dune Part 3 because the Odyssey has been selling crazy. So, like, for my first screening of the Odyssey, the aircon wasn't working, so they handed everyone in that theater like tickets to go again. And I was like, oh my god, yeah, I'll go again. When can I? But I was like, end of August, and it's like, okay, can I? Like, it was sort of the middle of August, and it's like, okay, which seats can I even have? You can have seats that are to the outermost aisle, and it's like, I guess that'll do. But then this week they added more screenings, and it was like 35 minutes ago, more screenings added. It's like, and I was just like, because you want to be in that center thing of the pack. You don't really want to be in the outer rows of the IMAX screening. But I got 2, so I'm definitely rewatching the Odyssey in IMAX 70mm 2 more times.
That's crazy to be doing that much. But I guess you go for it. Spoiler alert, it might be mentioned as one of the best films of 2026 so far. Crazy stuff. Before we get into that, Paramount Merger is currently on hold, potentially even until June of next year, because the Writers Guild in 12 states has put in legal measures to be fighting it, which is sort of exciting that it's actually prolonging any sort of deal to be made. I honestly think this is a harm regardless of, like, this merger happening. I don't know what the repercussions is going to be pausing it as they're, like, in this stasis of about to be sold, and what sort of the repercussions are for films that are produced in this limbo now. It's just like an all-around bad situation that obviously I don't blame on the people who, like, prolong this by fighting it in courts. It's just a situation overall. I hate that it's probably going to have an effect on movies produced by especially Warner Brothers. Paramount I care a bit less about. But Kevin, let's get to our main topic of today. We don't have any reviews to do. We're going to talk about, I think, like 40 or so films that we got to see that released in 2026. We're not going to be going over all of the details, the synopsis. We're basically giving you the title and sort of running through maybe why we are excited about. We have our top lists, maybe our top 5 is sort of set. But then I think it sort of made more sense to group them into these sort of sections where we have one that is like the more wide release, the worldwide cinema stuff that has come out either worldwide on digital or in cinemas and is now on VOD already, some of them still being in theaters like The Odyssey. And then we also are seeing a lot of films the year before that then don't get a release date until later into this year. And some of those films even only have a local distribution in like one country and might not even be out on VOD, but they're still like worth maybe separating, so that you can, like, you know, if you're too excited and you're like, oh, I'm gonna see this film, and then like can't be seen anywhere. So we're gonna like separate them a bit, and then also we have a section of gun films that we saw. Kevin appropriately is wearing the hat for that too. And in some countries or in some places, some of those films have already come out. Just a heads up for anyone watching from the US, I think basically all of them, apart from maybe one, isn't out in the States yet, but in some other country, a lot of them in France and like Europe, in those places. But we're still going to include them in our best of the year, because they certainly will be there once they get a release later in fall. But without further ado and less, I guess, introduction, Kevin, do you want to begin with maybe giving us like your top, like the top of the crop, like your favorite films of the year so far?
My top 5 best movies of 2026 so far. At number 5, it is The Odyssey. Oh my gosh. Oh, on number 5, what are the movies that are better? Rose of Nevada was my favorite movie of last year, unofficially. Sort of had to delay it to this year. It's been almost a year since I've seen that movie, and I still sometimes think about it. And even something that you sent to me, that was like, you know, all of the sound of Rose of Nevada had to be recreated in post because of situations on the set, and it's like, that's just mind blowing to me, because the auditory sense of Rose of Nevada is, might I say, even more overwhelming than The Odyssey. Just absolutely love Rose of Nevada. My top 3, I am not beating the Asian movie allegations, unfortunately. Number 3 is The Samurai and the Prisoner. It qualified because it came out in Japan already. We saw it in Cannes. Just absolutely adore the setting of Samurai and the Prisoner. Reminded me so much of Ghost of Tsushima, of Ghost of Yotei. So if you love those games, if you just love samurai movies in general, The Samurai and the Prisoner is absolutely one to watch.
And it comes out on July 31st in the States. It actually has a apparently wide theatrical release date right around the corner for a lot of people.
Hashtag hope. Hashtag hope for hope. Hashtag hope pilled. I'm doing the same intro and I didn't can because I am still that crazy about Hope, Na Hong Jin's latest movie that absolutely surprised me because I was just not expecting a full blown out action movie in the way that we got it. It recently debuted as well at the New York Asian Film Festival, and seemingly, you know, a different cut of it. Apparently the cut that we saw was 160 minutes. This cut was 156 minutes. So what are those 4 minutes of differences? I don't know. Seemingly a little bit different, but still, I absolutely adored Hope. If I rewatch a movie, right, that usually means it's at the top of the top in my list of the year. And yeah, Hope is just absolutely up there. Crazy mayhem. Very much adore that movie. And then the number 1 movie of this year, according to me so far, is The Furious. So I got 2 action movies at the top. Like you said, the first hour of Hope, it's like, if that was the movie, I would give it a 5 out of 5. And so to then be like, you know, what, that's surely the best action movie of the year. And then The Furious came around. I told at the beginning of the year to you, it's like, I am more excited to see The Furious than The Odyssey and Dune Part 3. Now that changed a little bit after I saw that Dune Part 3 trailer, but still, the sentiment remains. It's action cinema that has been built over these few years with movies such as Baby Assassins, Ghost Killer, the movie that Kensuke Tsunomura has directed himself as well, such as Hydra, Bad City, etc. It is a new form of action. I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, this is, you know, the John Wick, this is The Raid, and it's like, no, like The Raid was another turning point in action cinema. John Wick was another turning point in action cinema, and for me, The Furious is now another turning point in action cinema, because The Raid is very much like that quick style of Hong Kong, throwing bodies on the floor, but people usually get up instantly. And John Wick especially, it's very much more the gunplay. There are a lot of people being thrown, but again, they get up instantly. And sort of no pun intended, but the Furious is keeping the action a little bit more grounded in the sense that people are going low. People are slithering their way across their body, especially if they're slim and trying to use their speed rather than their force. But then you have a fucking character in the Furious, played by Brian Lee, that is just like, he's essentially Diddy Kong. I mean, the dude is so buff, just moving through everything, and it's just so wonderful to see. And the last 30 minutes of action, you can really see there with Ghost Killer. It's even the same lighting that they use in that end scene of the Furious, and it's just the best movie of the year. It's the turning point in action cinema, and I can't praise it enough. So that's my top 5 of this year so far. What about you, Ewan? What's your top 5, man?
I share the best film of the year so far is The Furious, and we did a like 45-50 minute long review of the film. We went over all the points that like Kevin also briefly reiterated here, and went for the movie as well. So you could sort of watch it step by step as we describe it, and rewatch it front to back, whatever. It's a great film, and I no doubt will be shouting this out to anyone who I assume likes action, because I believe, like you said, it's sort of an evolution to the genre. And to go from my number 1 to my number 5, I'm not really a fan of ranking anything, so really this isn't like something that I'll hold myself to towards the end of the year. But for now, I got Pavel Pawlikowski's Fatherland in there. Sandra Hüller has more than one appearance, actually 3 appearances in 3 movies. I think all movies that she's been in my best of the year so far. She you say 4 because she's in Digger. There's also another one that's about to come out here in Switzerland and in Germany, Ingemar Borgman, where she also has a role. So technically,
she has 5?
Ton of people are actually missing that she has 5 movies from this year.
Same as Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, exactly. She's the real queen, although I couldn't choose. I won't choose. More women in more movies. I'll take that. That's a win. But in Fatherland, the only reason why I get to pick this is because it came out in Poland, in the middle of June. It's gonna come out in Germany at the beginning of September, then in the US in November, UK at the end of October. So it does have a release date in France and Spain as well before the end of the year. So safe to say this will be a 2026 movie. It was a bit underwhelming to some when they got to see it in Cannes. It wasn't an underwhelming film to me in the slightest. It picks up where Cold War, I haven't seen either yet, but where that movie sort of leaves off, but not like in a story sense, but more in a feeling, the sort of look again, and having a look at this road trip of Thomas Mann and his daughter Erica was just wonderful. It's the short film. It's only 82 minutes long, so shout out to Fatherland. I hope we get to talk about it and praise it a bit more towards the end of the year, because I think one of the reasons, not to open up a whole tangent, but a lot of people were sort of disappointed with the Venice lineup, and I think they only gauge this is a big accusation, and if you feel called out, I'm actually calling you out. You should feel bad about this. Is that people sometimes gauge international films quality only with its capability to get an international Oscar nomination, and I'm like, fuck off, man. It's just as much cinema as it is the random ass like actor turned director with a mid-ass movie that's going to premiere at TIFF. I know it's a bit more exciting and easier to follow because it's in English and you won't have to read subtitles, but that's not like less cinema just because there's less stars in it. I think there's something more true even with these festival films. So that was a pitch for you to subscribe and stick around for our Venice coverage, which even more than Cannes will be even more niche, when it comes to that. But,
yeah.
All right. I also reviewed Blue Heron. Like, you got to see it, I believe, last year, right? At Ghent. So we got a review on your side. Then I got to see it a couple weeks back, and there's a clipped review on it on the channel as well. But really tapped into the sort of a recontextualization of your own memory through stepping into it. And I found that to be wonderful, moving, really, really well done. There's nothing more to say about that one. That's my number 4 for now. Silent Friend, basically like our Golden Lion winner if we had a choosing at last year's Venice Film Festival. And it came out basically everywhere at the beginning of the year and then a bit later on in the States. So you should have had an opportunity, and I think now it's available digitally as well. Like these 3 different timelines with Tony Leung and Lea Seydoux. We got one with Luna Vedla and then one with Enzo Brum. And they're all like set in different decades. One in 1908, one in 1972, and one in 2020. It's just wonderful how it all connects back to nature and sort of community and a variety of themes that you can read into it, and also beautifully shot. Like this one was a wonderful, slow-moving 2.5-hour film, but I might rewatch this before the end of the year. This is one of the ones.
I'm definitely gonna do too, and I'm gonna laugh once again at the pristine quality of their team calls. Yeah,
it was crazy. There was also another film that I'll shout out later with Rose with Sandra Hüller. There was a similar moment. It's because that movie's also in black and white in the Luna Vedla one, where she's like in front of like a tribune,
a committee,
the committee, and is being berated sort of. And I was like, oh, this is like spiritually interlinked here because it also was in black and white. Anyway, a bit of a tangent. But then my second favorite film of the year, and honestly, when it comes to like documentaries, this will be one a couple years back when I had Black Box Diaries as my favorite film of that year. This is up there, would be like in the running to also be deserving of a top spot of like a best of list, because talking about Remake by Ross McElvey, a filmmaker who we discovered at last year's Venice Film Festival as well, and the film did get a theatrical release at the middle of July, I believe, like 2 weeks ago in the States, and I hope it's coming out digitally at some place. I know we talked about its Oscar chances to maybe get some more eyes on it. I hope regardless of that, it does get a bit more attention, because it's once again, I do love my movies that recontextualize something by looking at it later. And here you got a plethora of footage that Ross McElvey shot of his son, Adrian, that has passed away from an overdose from drugs that contained fentanyl. And then you have these movies that he shot that Adrian was a part of, the times that they went to the Venice Film Festival together, and then he's sort of remaking his film here. And I saw in the promotion for a lot of people didn't do their homework, because they were saying, oh, Sherman's March is coming out again, a restored version, right? It's like, oh yeah, Remake is like basically a remake of that film. It's like, no, Remake is like Sherman's March. It's part of that film. They're talking about this very restoration that you are seeing here, but it is a remake sort of Photographic Memory, a film from 2011. It's not remaking that movie at all. It is more, like this movie is so many things that I can't really properly describe it. It is sort of working through grief by not making you a part of it or a witness to it or experience it alongside. It's sort of, you're working through it in a way, like through this medium of film and memory. Incredibly beautiful film. Might be one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, honestly. But yeah, that's my top 5.
I totally agree with you on that sentiment. I'm somewhere conflicted, because it's like Remake was so good, but then at the same time, I sort of never want to rewatch that movie again, because it's so devastating, right? It's not really a movie I'm gonna rewatch that quickly,
It's hard to,
that movie,
outside of a festival where we're both sort of ready for it and give it the attention and care it needs. If outside of that, it is met with a bit more of a reluctancy to engage with it on that deep of a level. But it really, really shook me. Not because I think we sort of, when we went into it, we read the synopsis that it was about his processing the death of his son. So we knew that going in. It's not like that. It was took us by surprise. I just that's what I said when we initially reviewed it. I don't know how a movie like this is received by the wider public, but I think it's inherently always going to stay niche. So I shouldn't have been worried about that much. But yeah, man, those are not even 10 films, because we do have a bit of overlap with The Furious, I guess. But hey, I didn't have The Odyssey in my top 5 here. But we do have a lot of other films to shout out. So we'll just sort of go through a list of them, briefly mention 1 or 2 things, and then we'll move on. We'll try and stay pretty brief with it. And the next film on the list that hasn't been mentioned by either of us, Kevin, it's a phenomenon that made so much money. What movie are we talking about? What could it be?
What movie were people obsessed with this year that it made $500 million almost? It's crazy. Obsession. I mean, there's been so much talk about, Curry Barker Kane Parsons, and even the YouTube filmmaker that came before with, for example, the Philippou brothers. And we have also another YouTube movie later on with Digital Movie Circus. We had Iron Lung earlier this year, so there was definitely a YouTube sensation in the theaters and in the feature film format this year. And it's definitely one that will see if it still lasts. Does that conversation still carry through a film festival fall where all the movies will debut, such as Digger, Wild Horse 9, Doom Part 3, etc. But a lot of people are saying like, hey, Indy Navarrete for Obsession, will she get into that Best Actress thing? And again, I do hate Oscar talk. You and I both do, especially early this early into the year. But it's it's an addition that I would really like to see, because once again, horror does not get recognized enough, etc.
Well, we hate it when it's like becomes the whole speculation. In the case of like Indy Navarrete here, it is sort of exciting to be like sort of in her court and cheering her on. Hopefully, making that happen as a collective, as we are very excited about. Not us, but specifically like the discourse not really dying down. I also think that like the way that when we reviewed it, since then I've seen so many people talk about this from different perspectives, the sort of backlash that I see when some people have sort of seen like Bear as not this antagonist, but more this like sort of flawed protagonist.
Yeah.
And seen like, her as the villain when she clearly is the victim, and the sort of ways that you like, and through that, like sort of get a snapshot of like the cultural zeitgeist and how something is seen, and the lack of understanding, or like the benefit that comes from like a female perspective then speaking out on like this being a reflection upon it. And then also I got so much of like the current snapshot of like somewhat media interested Gen Z, the younger generation, and how they view film. It was both frustrating but also incredibly illuminating, very interesting. And I really think this movie, beyond it's just success, it was such a cultural moment to get a glimpse into the collective mind of us. So really, really interesting. And another one that like, it's just a fun film that also has like a bit of something to say. Like it sort of brings everything together. Like for a horror film, this is really like quite peak.
And people having that different perspective of, oh, is Bear actually a villain, or is Nikki, did he actually have a chance with Bear? Like there are a lot of perspectives, and the discourse around this has it hasn't driven me crazy. Which like for example with like a Minecraft movie or something, when you're seeing the chicken jockey thing, it's like, oh my god, stop it. But like with Obsession, like you said, it's been very illuminating. It's been a fascinating thing to see online.
But I almost like to watch it from afar in a way as well, like farther removed, not to engage with the specific like viewpoints and discussions, but more see them as a like that. To me was very interesting.
And again, it's a movie that isn't scary to me, but it just put me in a position of being uncomfortable the entire time, and that's a massive feat to do.
I mean, the concept of it in itself is like very horrifying, but maybe not like that you engage with it and share that feeling specifically alongside it. And then moving from something horror space into a pure like crazy ass comedy that unfortunately only premiered over on Hulu, I believe, on digital. We got to see Pizza Movie there, and did have a full on review on the channel, so you can go check that out. But if you've been wondering, what someone from the Stranger Things cast, like Gaten Matarazzo, has been up to, he's the lead of this film, and I don't have anything other to say. That like they get high and try to get a pizza, and that's basically like this premise of the film. And it gets very trippy, gets very weird. It's both Gen Z but also millennial. Like it's almost like this movie couldn't really decide what generation it wants to be, reflecting that maybe there isn't such a like line when it comes to generations, and it is a bit of like a mix and push and pull on those. Hilarious film, really, really funny. Yeah, I think did you have it on your list as well, or was it just on mine?
It was on my list as well. I think it's one of the funniest movies of this year, and we oftentimes look at the cast of Stranger Things. It's like, ooh, like for example, there will definitely be like 5 years later, where is the cast of Stranger Things now? And there are a couple of in them, like Joe Keery, for example. Definitely, like the music career that he has
Joe.
Right now. You have Sadie Sink, who I've seen a video of the behind the scenes of Stranger Things, and like everybody's crying, and Sadie Sink is sort of neutral. She's like, I can't wait to get out of here and act, because she's done that Romeo and Juliet thing with Hope. Yeah, and now she's in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And she is fighting spoilers for her life. She cannot reveal her character at all. So that's quite fun to see. Gamer Matarado had also done a movie a few years ago called Honor Society that I thought was almost as fun as this. Like, not perfect, but, starring Angry Rice. And sort of to get things ahead, like Finding Emily, another Angry Rice film that we both adored. And it's like, thank God for these rom-com films this year that have been stellar to watch, with all the buildings I see fall like lightning, I think it's called.
I see buildings fall like lightning.
I see buildings fall like lightning, pardon me. And Finding Emily was such a surprise as well, like a fresh of breath air, in the same vein that Pizza Movie was to me.
Yeah. You know what? For now, I think this is because Finding Emily actually was, the more I think about it, because that's another one where I see so many edits of it on TikTok nowadays. People have adored this one. The sort of energy that these two have, the chemistry, the awkwardness, and I think it does have a few pretty iconic moments to sort of stand a bit of test of time to be
definitely.
It reminds me a lot of like what was it called, Ryland, a couple of years back in 2021.
The
Rylane. And I really enjoyed the visual presentation and how that came across. Obviously in the States, this in the UK. This was incredible. I think so far, I'm not looking at the rest of my list, but this is like, for now, almost deserving of a top 10 spot in like the best of the year. I really, really like it. It's really good romance rom-com. Yeah, shout out to Finding Emily.
Next up, two movies that only you have watched. I unfortunately have not been able to catch up on it.
Yeah, two movies starring Bobby Ferreira in lead roles. Euphoria ended. It would not be anywhere near, like, this is not a TV best of list, but it would be at the bottom of the list, and she's also exited that show. But that's sort of where she sort of gained a bit of notoriety and left the show, and is now been taking these interesting projects. I always admire someone who was going from a supporting role into movies where where they are like the center of the story, because that is way harder to book. Obviously, you could just like go for something where you always just like with the stereotype-ish sort of supporting character and lean into that. But both Faces of Death and Mile and Kicks are really interesting films. Faces of Death obviously like taps back into I think the 70s or 80s, like these tapes that were then faked to be like as a moderator, that she's sort of seeing these clips come online that are seemingly like people being killed, but then everyone's screaming fake, right? Oh, how good it is done. And then she sort of brings it into question of like, oh, is it actually fake? And that sort of investigation is not something that we've never seen done before, but it's just like, it was just very captivating and interesting, pretty grotesque. I think this was another one of like the best horror films of the year, but it seemingly did go a bit more overlooked than some of the other ones. And it is already, I think, playing on Shudder, and got a crazy like Dacre Montgomery performance that is very well done as well. So shout out to Faces of Death. And then Mile and Kicks sees her moving to Montreal as this young, aspiring music critic writer, and then trying to find herself as she's like sort of falling for two people in a band, or like specifically for one guy who's not really that interested, and another one is there who is more interested in her, or maybe not. Like it's really unclear. It's just like not really falling into the tropes that you'd expect from a premise like this, but bringing something unique to it, this sort of spin on this being a music critic, and where like there's no future to that anywhere. Like this is also set in 2011, and sort of like, what are you even building towards? Like you're just a glorified promoter in a way, going to these shows and then saying like, oh, I'm a journalist, I'm writing about this. Like it tapped into a feeling that sometimes maybe we could feel in this imposter syndrome of doing basically only an online show discussing film, but then getting access to some of the press stuff it brings into question like what your role is and what you see your value in. It's interesting stuff. Like I really think you'd also love Mylan Kicks and get around to it, man.
I loved Barbie Fair last year, and Bob Torino likes it. I thought she gave a stellar performance in that one. So I'm sort of kicking myself, pun intended, for not seeing this one. But I did see it was both on our most anticipated list. I mean, the absolute rave that it came out of TIFF, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, which is also one of the funniest movie of the year. I mean, it's been a great year for comedy in general. I should say we are usually praising horror, and we are usually always being like, where are the funny movies, man? Where is comedy? Comedy movies are dead. And it's like, no, they are out there, but you do have to seek them out, and they hit. And Nirvana the band, the show, the movie definitely hit. I just saw that Nirvana the band, the show, will be on Disney Plus or Hulu as well. So there's really going to be a rediscovery happening around that. And I mean, it's a very fun movie, man. It's a Back to the Future reference. Matt Johnson, who is both directing this, is acting in it alongside his buddy Jay McCarroll. The shit that they're doing in this movie, a little bit of that guerrilla filmmaking that they're doing of people just not being aware of shit at all. The visual effects in this that are very sneaky, but like sort of fascinating to see. For example, jumping off, the monument in Toronto and trying to get into the stadium and then landing on the roof. Like all very, very fun stuff. Definitely up there as in terms of the best. And like it's actually a lot of people's favorite movie of the year so far as well.
Yeah. I think the praise that it got all the way, like it premiered at South by Southwest in March.
Oh yeah,
and then it was huge in Toronto again, right?
Yeah,
and then it did finally get a release later on as well. I think they did a great job with the promotion, but also then the movie living up to what a lot of people were saying that it was. But I think the praise was just a tad bit too high for me to like. I think this, as having no idea what it's going to be and then being completely engulfed by it, is the best viewing experience, and not like almost a year-long hype for it. So for me, it's like it could have been even higher to me as like the way that I saw it. But still, like one of the best. Honestly, like it's been a great year for action. It's been a great year for certain like romance films, I gotta say, and for comedies too. So far, really nothing that has been sort of a huge disappointment where I was rooting for something like very different. But and then a film that we are gonna review a bit later on in the show as well. I'm gonna briefly talk about it a bit more in detail. A film from 2024 that was picked up out of Tribeca by Netflix, and it's just sort of been dumped in the middle of June onto Netflix without, I would say, much fanfare, but fanfare would be enough. It's not fair to this film that just got dropped onto a digital platform where hopefully it gets discovered a bit more. Currently it's at 2.2k locks, and it's about like this father-son relationship where he's, I don't know how old he is. He's like 8 or 9 maybe, or 10, and has Down syndrome. They recently lost a partner and mother, and they're trying to go to a baseball game, and that's essentially like the premise as we go through a few of the days in the lead up to going to that game together. And I think it plays such an interesting picture of this dynamic that is both vulnerable and also, remember when I think 1 or 2 episodes ago, I talked about Killer of Sheep, like a movie that sort of taps into like a sort of black neorealism in the States by Charles Burnett. And I think this sort of is spiritually connecting to that, not as miserable as Killer of Sheep is, but it's sort of still resting in the bleakness of the reality of the situation that they're in, and sort of how difficult it is just like to raise a kid by yourself, right, as you're still going through your own trauma. And yeah, we'll talk about it a bit more later on, but this is probably one like the most low-key of the films that are widely accessible that we're talking about. So Colorbook, big shout out.
It's in my top 10. Just at number 10. And in a movie that in a year that has been as strong as this, to make it into my top 10 quite late, because it was a late discovery. It's like, oh, what are the movies that we potentially have missed? Colorbook, Netflix. Okay, I saw it first, and you saw it, and you were even aware of this movie, which goes to show again how how the Netflix catalog at this point is just sort of a lost and found type of bin. Like, like some Asian movie that I sent you forward as well, like sort of were dumped on Netflix, and it's like, fuck, why are they doing this? But I get it, multiple continents, you have to appeal to a lot of people. You can't, worldwide constantly promote everything. But Color Book, I was sort of gonna make the comparison to Come On, Come On. In that black and white, there are moments of happiness there, but there are moments of levity as well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it a little bit later. Loved it. Next up, The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan. We've talked about this at length. At length already on the channel. We actually missed a few stuff last time that we perhaps can mention now. I've done the rewatch in IMAX 70mm as well. We both, I love, the especially that score of like dun, 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 boom, and it's like, oh my god, Ludwig and Christopher Nolan, you all are geniuses. But anything else you want to say about this movie that we perhaps might have not have the last time we talked about this?
I think in the lead up, I had a bunch of things like in memory that we forgot to talk about that I wanted to talk about in this very moment. It is not coming to me. I feel like I've eaten the lotus. I've eaten the lotus. I'm in Calypso's arms right now, and I can't remember for the life of me. Just want to get back to my wife and half away. Yeah, I don't think there's that much to tap into. That I think we discussed a lot, but we also left a lot out because it's just so much
just a huge
to
movie
to be discussing. I think what I enjoyed is since then, I think a bit more behind the scenes stuff has come out. And a lot of that has just been fun. Fun to see.
It's also been put out there that it is on track to make $1 billion, which would make Christopher Nolan's second billion movie. I don't know actually if any of the other movies has made $1 billion. Did The Dark Knight get over it?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it got like to 850. I'd make a guess.
Dark Knight Rises, yeah. Dark Knight Rises made over $1 billion.
Oh, The Dark Knight did.
Dark Knight as well made over $1 billion. So. And Oppenheimer just made under $1 billion, I believe. But it just shows that, with a story that's 3,000 years old and Nolan's going to make $1 billion with it. Oppenheimer, a movie that's 3 hours of people talking, almost made $1 billion. And a lot of people are now saying like, oh my God, imagine the even blanker check that Christopher Nolan will get out of this to produce his next movie, which a lot of people are hoping is going to be a horror film. I hope so too, because some of the sequences in the Odyssey are quite horrifying. The Cyclops scene, the Samantha Morton scene, Saoirse scene, etc. Did you remember what you wanted to say?
Yeah. Also, the Cersei scene. There's more behind the scenes of that. That basically, like they said, like there were no computer enhancements done there, which is great. I don't know how the fuck they did that then.
No.
And also reversed the footage to be like with the eating thing to go like just. Clever tricks all around. Just it's almost like a bit of an Odysseus himself, that Nolan guy. But also when you basically brought up that Athena is basically like this embodiment of a Trojan woman that is being beheaded as a symbol of like, oh, spoilers for the Odyssey. If you don't have a ticket until September, I'm sorry. Because a lot of that stuff is different from the novel, even if you studied it. There are spoilers sort of for the Odyssey, even though the book is like 3,000 years old. So Athena was just a woman from Troy, right? And I pushed back and I was like, no, it's Athena. And then I've seen a lot of people, and especially I think shout out to Sydney Volpe from House of Cinema. She's done a lot of like videos on the Odyssey that were like quite illuminating and interesting to get her perspective. She's not been the only one, but it's sort of just like
there's been so much content on the Odyssey. I'm drowning in it.
Yeah, but like her thing was like the sort of embodiment of like what this Athena thing, like how she read it, and it does leave that room of interpretation. And I thought like, it isn't really there, but then the more I think about it, I do believe it is. I guess there, I do agree. That sort of this could just be an embodiment of like his sort of guilt be summarized into this person. It does also maybe then make a bit more sense that he's sort of letting go of that by the end with the hand and everything. But I think it just as well works as her being this like very literal goddess that appears in this story too. And like just to say that maybe the rigidity of like how to read a film, I sort of was like, nah, actually I disagree with myself there. I guess that was wrong.
Yeah, it can be interpreted two ways, which you sort of push back on it. I was like, I'm not.
Yeah. I was like, no, I read the fucking long ass book. I'm right.
But next up, She's the He, which is a movie that we both watched. Again, in terms of comedy, here's another one. It didn't hit as much for me as it did for you. But the two main performances, especially Misha Osherovich, was the standout for me in that movie. Ewan, tell me a bit more about that one.
It's just the premise itself is probably one that's a bit more under the radar for a lot of people. But it's basically like these two characters that get accused of being gay and they don't want to be gay because they want to get some pussy. At least one of them wants to. And then they come up with the plan to pose as trans women so they can get into the women's locker room. And with the performance, like one of them is a trans man, the other one's a trans woman. So one of them is making the transition in the film as well and sort of authentically finds themselves. The other one who's actually playing a guy is a guy and sort of like a trans guy. And then it uses that sort of finding of identity paired with like this very like loud humor in a way of like just that connected with me more than did not. It did have some outlandish things that maybe didn't completely land, like some supporting characters that feel like they're almost obligatory for a comedy like this that maybe isn't as necessary. And then one character that's way more interesting to follow because there's vulnerability. The other one's just like goofy, but still, such a good time to be had with She's the He. So shout out to that film. And then another film you haven't seen yet, the much praised third film, actually, I believe, right? From Olivia Wilde. The Invite, based on a Spanish film that has been remade in Switzerland, in France, and Korea.
Was Spanish film or theater play?
No, it was a film. It was a movie. And that came out like in 2022 or 2023. And since then, like it really quickly got remade in a lot of different countries. And I think this isn't like just taking the premise and just redubbing it into a different like it very much becomes a very different thing. And these observations and the way that she went about making this film are also interesting in the way that like she completely shoots it chronologically in a way that they have a script, but they are sort of working through it as a collective to find some sort of truth in there as well. I think it does have a sort of feeling of the constructions that sort of are inherently, I feel like, always pretty, I don't know how you feel about this, but pretty apparent in basically every American production. It feels like there's another like there's some sort of artificiality that I always feel, even though it might be inherently like very true to the nature of like Americans, but maybe that's just like the sort of disconnect that we have.
I get what you mean.
And in that still, like that's why like when an American tries to make like a European film festival movie, it's like usually it's a bit like too on the nose, so like they can't really tap into whatever the fuck they do in Europe here, but it's very successful. Like it has some really interesting characters, a lot of dynamics to discuss after the fact, and some performances that are worthwhile to be mentioned in the dreaded Oscar race, and as well as screenplay that is incredibly well put together. The direction is very impressive too. So all around, a film that I'm not surprised to see in like top 5s, top 3s, favorite films of the year by the end of the year, even past Dune. I wouldn't be surprised if for some this is their favorite film of the year. So
if we are talking about, actresses with multiple movies, I mean, Penelope Cruz is another one. The Invite, she was in The Bride. She had a small part in La Bola Negra, and she will be in Florian Zello's Bunker alongside with her husband, Javier Bardem. Which, by the way, shout out to Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz, I don't know if she's been at every football game of Spain, one, yeah. But Javier Bardem was at every Spain's World Cup. The guy was I think Sergio Ramos handed the World Cup trophy over, but I was like, Javier Bardem could have given that trophy to the team, man. I mean, he was at every game. The man was dedicated.
Yeah. I'm happier for Javier Bardem's country to win a World Cup than for Spain to win one.
Yeah.
So that is very happy for him.
Next up, a movie that I haven't seen also. Damn it.
It's another Sandra Hüller movie. This one is actually one, we are looking at films, Fatherland. She's technically the second lead. She's not the first lead.
Yeah.
In Project Hail Mary, she's supporting.
Very subdued support performance.
Same with Digger. She's not going to be the lead. In Rose, she is the lead. So it's basically set after the 30 Years' War. She returns as a soldier, posing as a guy who has fallen. There was her friend, and is getting this inheritance on a land and working on it. It low key. Some of the premise is given a bit of like Bastarden with Promised Land.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have that feeling, but there is the harshness of the land and sort of the imposed rules that you have to be under. She also has like really disfigured face because she had like a bullet go through the side of her face, and then she is pretending to be a guy so she can live there. It's a movie that sort of doesn't really do that much. It feels like it sort of creeps along. No spoilers here. It does end on a little monologue from Sandra Hüller's character, and that one is so moving, and it sort of is like it's saying something, because the movie also has narration, and there's a moment where like the narration is then taken over by not her narrating, but her doing a monologue that feels like it's almost addressing the audience, and that worked so incredibly well that I was quite surprised. That I think the movie came together to me in like its final moments quite a bit, when the rest of it was a lot of dread of like this imposed thing being questioned if she is a man or not, like that coming into play as you'd expect from a story like this. Also beautifully shot on black and white. I was just so there's also a bear in this film, which I won't say like what the context of that is. Yeah, multiple times there's like a bear. There's actually like a scene that's quite impressive with it, but it came out in the premiere at the Berlin Film Festival, and then has come out in Switzerland, I think in Germany as well, and then it will premiere, I believe, in September for you in Belgium. And it's another one of those films that we probably won't get a US release outside of like maybe at some point later last year, or maybe a bit ahead of it if it is in conversation for an international Oscar. I don't think it will be, but it is a very it is for the Sandra Hüller fans a must watch. It's a great performance from her yet again.
Let's go from one Sandra Hüller movie to another. We're doing segues now. Project Hail Mary, which is a movie that maybe with movies such as The Odyssey has been, the wind has been taking out the sail of Project Hail Mary, maybe just a tiny bit. But it's out on Prime right now, and maybe at the end of the year it will make another push of sort of being, hey, visual effects, hey, Ryan Gosling, can it make, best actor thing, because the whole movie is on his shoulders, and then you also have the puppet Rocky, perhaps doing a push for the puppeteer of Rocky who's doing the voice, to be able to be eligible, which is a conversation that has always been fascinating to have, especially with Andy Serkis, who I believe still should have been an Oscar nominee for his performance as Caesar. But Project Hail Mary is still one of this year's biggest, movie that you could have possibly seen in a theater. I think it's like sort of the trifecta. It's like we had Project Hail Mary in the beginning of the year, we have The Odyssey now, and at the end of the year, you will have Dune Part 3. And it's like those are the three biggest movies that I feel like you could have seen, which again is also a bit wild for me.
Adaptation.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. Which again feels wild to say in a year as an Avengers movie, but that's just how I feel personally. We have discussed Project Hail Mary at length on the channel as well. You can definitely check that out on this channel.
Similar to the next movie here, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, a film that I think is a bit higher in higher regard. It's like on the edge for me right there, but it just speaks to in a year where we gotten this film, it's to me not even in the like top 3 best horror films, because there's been so many other like great horror movies, but it also is a film that gets quite existential and is really an interesting look at this character, Dr. Kelson. Just very interesting. Hasn't stuck with me as much as I sort of expected when I first watched it, but it's interesting we discussed this because for a lot of people, I think it's on your list as well on the periphery, that a lot of people were saying like Send Help was like their like top 5, one of the best films of the year, and less this film. which to us was a bit surprising because it's almost got like a million logs on Letterboxd. Like it's not like it's an unpopular film, but seemingly it's been held in, at least like from what we've seen, a bit less in high regard than maybe something like Send Help. But those two films, like to start off the year with those two films, I think was quite successful. But yeah, I enjoyed both of them. But what do you think?
I mean, 28 years later, is like miles above Send Help for me. And it's carried with a Ray Fiennes performance that I must admit, again, I hate the Oscar talk, but it's like, fuck, man, the guy should be like praised to the heavens for this performance that he's doing in this movie. And it is such a funny movie as well, because the parts with him and Samson, where there's just sort of like, two people being in the playground, and then you return to the most horrifying shit with Jack O'Connell's absolute deranged character in this movie. And it's like, oh yeah, we're dancing, we're listening to music, we're getting high. It's like, somebody gets skins, and it's like, I don't know what I'm watching. And then like, boom, metal part, and it's like, oh my god, bro. I was talking about it with Luca over yesterday, 2 days ago, and it's like, bro, I'm already thinking about the montage that I'm gonna do. It's like, am I gonna use Sign of the Times? Am I gonna use the metal part in 28 years later? And the answer to both of the question is absolutely. Very much looking forward to using that in the edit. I can't lie. But yeah, Nia DaCosta's, I think she's taking a break now. She's sort of done these movies back to back. Candyman, the Marvels, 28 years later, Bone Temple. The third one, the third entry has been officially confirmed. A lot of people were concerned, like, are we getting the third movie? Because Bone Temple didn't do that well. And it's maybe a little conversation to have now, Ewan, in terms of, movies that have like a continuation that comes shortly after the original movie. Sort of Horizon, unfortunately, jump-started this thing. I mean, hell, even Solo, I'd argue, back in the days, because you had The Last Jedi, that was very controversial, but did make money. Then almost 6 months later, you're getting a new Star Wars movie, and Solo absolutely flopped. Now, there were production reasons behind that with Millers, etc. But now you have The Girl, indeed, that has... I can't... Like, I don't know the official numbers, but I don't see that movie making profit, right? Those two The Girl movies, now with 20 years later as well. So, like, movies that have, like, a continuation and don't have size to grow before the next entry, it really doesn't seem like a smart choice now to do.
I mean, it only makes sense if you do something like the Digital Circus, where it is sort of a lead up in a different place, and then a concluding thing goes into theaters.
Yeah,
I think that is way more of like those stories are always success stories. They're like, oh, they could have even stayed in theaters for longer because it did so well, right? And it's sort of the like inverse when it comes to that. I think what they hoped for, probably in its best case, is the Count of Monte Cristo. That came out like 2-3 years ago, premiered in Cannes, and came out shortly after in France, and did like, I didn't really track it until the end of the year. It was, I think, the most successful movie of that year in France. It was crazy. They were hoping probably something similar for a story like this, which isn't as vast, which isn't as like well known too. And I think the interest for it just wasn't there. Like, I really enjoyed it. I don't really see a really huge wide appeal for that film though. It is very much like a lot of it in rooms discussing World War II things, and it's, I don't know how that like plays for a wide audience. And I do have a screener for the second part, but it's also, I was informed by Batte that they weren't even gonna show it in any other version than in the French original cut. Like, they're not, I think, even working on subtitling any of it. They really were just sticking to the French market. It just really speaks to, like, maybe if outside of France there's no interest, then maybe inside of France there's also, it can be niche for a film with that sort of price tag attached to it. I liked it so far. I still gotta watch part 2 though.
But I'm very much looking forward to 20 years later, the third entry, which will once again be directed by Danny Boyle. So I don't know what type of style we are getting for that one, because we've done the iPhone thing. Nia DaCosta one looked very, like a bit more digital again, but still the color very much like, popping, that darkness, the shadows. And I don't know where we'll go stylistically for the third one, starring Cillian Murphy once again. So yeah, very much looking forward to that one. We'll be watching his latest movie, Ink, at the Venice Film Festival. So curious for that one.
And then I got to see through a screener from a favorite distribution company in Switzerland, Trigon, who picks up like films exclusively from South America, from Africa, from Asia, and the Middle East too. And A Sad and Beautiful World is the latest entry that will get a release date, I think, in a couple weeks' time here in Switzerland. It did already come out, I believe, early in the year in France, in Spain as well, in the Netherlands it played. So I don't know if there wasn't a release maybe that you missed in Belgium. Could that be? Because it was in France and in the Netherlands. I don't know.
Yeah,
but hopefully sooner than later we get it on VOD, because I think it's like, for what it is about, it's about these like two people from Lebanon who basically were born like a minute apart from each other, I think is the premise. And they have very different perspectives on the future of the country, and with that, their own future, like as separate people, but also together. And it sort of explores that while being shot in like, oh my god, like one of the best looking films of the year. The way that it uses backlighting and the sort of, as harsh as that sounds, the backdrop of a war, and those sort of sounds to still be instilled with love and finding that. And I think that pairing is always so tragic but beautiful, but it doesn't feel exploitative. I think this movie does a ton of things right when it is very hard to do things right tonally. So all around, really, really impressive film. It's bound to be overlooked. It's that type of film that I think should get way more attention than it does. And then just another like fun comedy here, Forbidden Fruits. It's a sort of movie that is perfect for South by Southwest, where it premiered. It had a cast with Lily Reinhardt, Lola Tung, Victoria Pedretti, Alexandra Shipp, Emma Chamberlain, Gabriella Union. And it's just the girls having a bit of fun. And it's like very much tapping into a very weird tone as like this sort of group of almost like wannabe witches in a way run the store, and the sort of hierarchy that they established themselves. And it's just very out there. It's like, it's the type of film you either fuck with its tone, or it's going to be the thing that you hate the most this year. Like, there's pretty much no in between, and I had a pretty good time with it. I think it sort of didn't really stick the landing. It did like one too many odd things towards the end to have like something to say as well as just being entertaining. And I think the point wasn't really that strong. But still, a great time to be had with Forbidden Fruits. You know what? Not a comedy that worked well, right? The Sheep Detectives. Kevin, you got to see this one before I did, because I skipped the press screening because I was like, I'm not gonna watch a movie that was directed by the guy who did the first two Minions movies. And the Sheep Detectives was actually kind of good. So
yeah, and props is to Craig Mazin for that one. At least that's the props that I gave to Craig Mazin for that movie. Like, the cast was all on their A game as well. Whether it be voices, whether it be our boy cousin Greg in that one, Nicholas Braun. I thought he was the MVP of that movie.
Yeah, very fun.
And Sheep Detectives is just very heartwarming. It's sort of the family movie of the year. Like, you can watch it with anyone. It also has a message that is very important about remembering, and the way that the sheep are trying to forget. Like, I don't want to make you... Are you going to start crying?
No, not now. But I did cry at the fucking sheep movie. Used the wool to like patch up my tears, I guess. But no, it was very sweet.
Already out on Prime Video worldwide. So if you want to catch up on Sheep Detectives, I highly recommend to do so. You skipped over one in our show notes, Ewan.
That's a little one that's over discussed. I don't care.
Oh yeah, it's just my favorite horror movie of this year. Backrooms.
Oh really?
Yes.
I forgot you like this more than Obsession.
Like, I did have it, in my top 10. It was number 6. But I absolutely adore Backrooms. We've talked about it once again at length on this channel, so go check that out.
The thing is, I think the discussion around Obsession was way more in detail than the one about Backrooms, or at least it didn't really, because I never engaged with the amount of fan theory that's inherently behind Backrooms, so maybe I wasn't really a part of the chatter. I don't know if they approved, if they disapproved. I mean, the box office would say they definitely did approve. But I don't know. This is just the one where I can already see the sort of market shifting for it, but also with it, in the way that they just want to sequelize it. And I don't know. I'm impressed by what I got to see, but like I don't know. It's not going to be one of my favorite films of the year, but it's certainly a big one.
Definitely. Next up, we have a movie that I unfortunately still haven't seen. I think it did just come out in theaters here in Belgium, though, or it's about to come out next week. With the Christophers, Steven Soderbergh made for a few people that attended the film festival where the Christophers played. They were capable of seeing 3 Steven Soderbergh films in the same year with Presence, Black Bag, and the Christophers. You've actually talked about this movie as well on the channel before, but just to refresh what you said about it.
I mean, it's a rare Michaela Cole performance that we get. She seemingly has sort of disappeared. She wasn't the strong point in this film, to be honest. I think Ian McKellen is just like such a delight to be looked at through the lens of her character. I think that's sort of the interesting perspective she brings as this artist that is very renowned, but also canceled and hated nowadays for the way that he goes about talking to anyone or the way that he's communicating with people. He's also a closeted homosexual, like he's gay but never really got to fully live that through it. And then it's about like his kids wanting the inheritance of the Christophers, like these unfinished paintings that they've sort of pre-sold already to someone, and just playing with that premise, like Jessica Gunning and James Gordon being the 2 kids sort of like works, because less with Jessica Gunning, I guess, but she has that sort of role that we all like, the one that she was a freak, and James Gordon is he's James Gordon, so there's an inherent hate that I just feel towards him as a person, so that works. But yeah, it's fun. It's got bits of comedy, gets the drama parts right. So looking forward to what you have to say about the Christophers in about a week's time.
I don't hate James Gordon. It's just that he very early in his career he was sort of nailing the roles, and then he's become the sort of persona with the talk show thing that I think a lot of people have started to hate on him.
Yeah, it's just sort of a tad bit of like, oh, you're playing outside of your ballpark right here. You feel like you're more than sort of like, I don't know, he got a bit too high on his own supply in a way.
Right. Next up, I think, you know what? I think I can speak for the both of us on this, is that Power Ballad, as we started, mustering on it, it started to sort of grow in our mind. It's like, actually, you know what? This is a movie.
People are actually wrong about this one when they don't.
Way better than it actually is. With Power Ballad, which I argue has one of the strongest endings of this year, and I just think John Carney just knows how to end on a high, right? He just knows how to nail those moments that are very impactful. There are a couple of downs, like this movie is very much a little bit up and down, but the highs are very high with Power Ballad. I've been listening to some of the songs since I've watched it, with the John Carney movie. You can't really be surprised to do so. But yeah, like it was a really interesting pairing for you with Blue Heaven and Power Ballad.
Yeah, it was my trauma week.
Yeah,
I was like, if you want to see a big tough guy cry on a podcast live, to go check out that episode, because I legit like broke down into tears talking about it. But no, the song that I really how to write a song about it, Paul Rudd's version that I kept listening to. That already has phased out of my thing. Of listening to it again. Since then, I had an intense couple of weeks, like listening to it a lot. Not the listening experience. I think I didn't cry, while listening to the song. Maybe once. But since then, like the new Olivia Rodrigo album has come out, and honestly, I've been listening. Like I
called you out on it.
Nothing to call out about, because I did turn off my Spotify thing on Discord for a while. Because it was like, I don't want to be tracked on like when I'm listening stuff, when I'm doing other things. Because I think it's a bit creepy if people know specifically what you're doing at any moment. No, I do think it's creepy. But then I was like, you know what? I'm doing it because I feel like some people might look at it and say, oh, what's he listening to? And I was like, no, fuck you. I actually like what I'm listening to. And I loud and proudly think this is by far the best album I've listened to this year. This Olivia Rodrigo album is not just her best, but also one of the best albums I've listened to in a long time. It's really, really good.
Have you listened to Charlie XCX's new one already?
It's good. It's good. But like, dude, the Olivia Rodrigo stuff is on and on. Like, basically the whole album I fucking adore. I've listened to that album, I think like probably 10 times front to back already, like in the background, like and then obviously the listening to the songs individually.
Let me quickly go to the Spotify. Oh look, Honeybee, Olivia Rodrigo, 2 hours ago. Yeah, it's just before the recording.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not like I usually just like play through the playlist. Yeah, it's really really strong songs thematically too. That like I had a lot of moments. I'm only spending so much time on it because there's actually a show that like. Right, no, I think this sort of is still fine with the embargo. But there's a show that comes out in August that I already got to see like 2 weeks ago, literally like 2 days after the album comes out, that uses one of the songs in the opening sequence of that series. And I was like, how? It's literally not been out when you were doing this. How did you do this? But I guess they had the connections to already get like a pre-released version of it. But they have a song from it that wasn't a single already. Like I think it was actually Honeybee, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Ted Lasso. It was a porn show. Right, I can tell you, but it's but like you gotta cut that out. Not a show that you know.
Tell me now.
This is what it's called.
Oh, okay, cool.
A random show that you wouldn't know, but like.
Next up, Toy Story 5. I unanimously have never seen the Toy Story movies before Toy Story 5, like in full length. Like I am aware of a lot of moments of the Toy Story movie, so I did get a lot of the references that were in Toy Story 5, with, oh, he's my father, no, like that whole thing. But yeah, I gotta say, Pixar has done it again. Unfortunately, since Toy Story 5, there has been the news that there have been massive layoffs at Disney, and most of them will be at the Pixar side of things, so it's a little bit bummed out to hear that news, but it doesn't lessen the impact of Toy Story 5, which, I was surprised because I was walking into that movie, sort of thinking, iPads are bad, tablets are bad, technology is bad for kids, but they went way more, in depth with that message, and way more looking at parents on the parents' side as well, not only just on the kids' side.
Friendships too, how they are formed.
Friendships,
they are shaped by our parents just as much as they are by us in a way. Like how susceptible are you to actually find connection. A really, really beautiful message. I think it really makes a great pairing with like this and Inside Out, like the both those
Inside Out 2.
Yeah, Inside Out 2. Yeah. Also to tag onto the layoffs, I think after Inside Out 2, they also had a massive thing with layoffs. And it's the same in the gamers industry. As soon as a game is done, I saw someone make a joke. I was like, well, you just got to be in perpetual limbo of never releasing a game. And then you always got a job. You got to delay it further and further, which is like such a bleak outlook to be having. Like, it's so depressing. But hey, as soon as they done their job, get out, I guess. That's sort of the sentiment that, what it feels like recently when it comes to digital artists.
Action cinema. We've talked about it. We had The Furious, we had The Butcher's Blade, and we also talked about Blades of the Guardian, which was a Chinese New Year film that came out on VOD not so long ago. We talked about it on the channel as well. Directed by, an 80-year-old guy who it's kind of insane seeing the energy that's been that's on display in Blades of the Guardians. Big budget film, and I gotta say, was a really, really fun time. It's not on the same level as Hope or, The Furious for me, but still a noteworthy addition in this year's action canon.
And then something that concluded this year was the multi-year run of this sort of YouTube web series that had its final episode alongside the second to last episode premiere in theaters with the last act of The Amazing Digital Circus. Something that you went in excitedly. I called it slop, then I kept caught up on it and was like, oh, there's actually something more to this. And I think there's not much to say here. We've reviewed it already. It was a successful thing, and I think we'll just refer to this because, dude, I can see we already are pretty far in this recording, and we've talked about so many films already.
It's only been an hour and 25.
But yeah, what about Waste Man? That just barely outside of like left off of mine. It would be an honorable mention on my side, but yeah.
But again, it's in this phase of the year, the movie that we are mentioning, I just know are not going to be.
They're going to go under by the end of the year.
Are not going to be mentioned at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You might see these movies in lists such as the most underrated, the most underwatched, the most underseen films.
British films, we might see them at the those awards.
But Waste Man, again, I will say though, David Johnson is like one of the actors to watch right now. I have not seen a bad performance from this man. I think he's really one of the rising stars, if you can still call him a rising star, after movies such as Alien Romulus, Y Lane, which was really, I think, the film that launched him.
I think he's still a rising star because if you ask a general person who that actor is, they wouldn't probably be able to name him. They would more with Tom Blythe, someone who was like part of. He needs the Songbirds and Snakes or whatever the fuck that was called. Type of performance to really propel him into.
I mean,
that
Alien
status.
Romulus, I'd argue, is one.
Yeah, but I think they wouldn't like even Katie Spaney. I don't know if people would know her from that maybe more than something like Priscilla. I don't know, but he deserves it. I think I don't care what he's in because I know he's going to be good, even if everything around it is shit. He's going to be good. So just give him as many roles as he needs, man. I just want him to see him in more things. And
we are doing a preview video of what we're looking forward to the rest of the year. But he is in The Chaperones, directed by India Donaldson, who made a movie called Good One, where he's reuniting alongside Cooper Hoffman, and they're being joined by Paul Dano. So again, very much looking forward to that one. Then we got Thiele, which is an interesting take on the Stockholm syndrome. I believe it's also called Good Boy in some countries, which I don't know, man. We oftentimes call each other Good Boy to really rage bait each other. And
give them the context, please. It's just full stop.
So but when talking about David Johnson and the fact that he has never done a bad performance, Stephen Graham has never done a bad performance, and he's been in a couple of bad movies for sure, especially with Venom. That wasn't great. Thiele, or Good Boy as it's called in some countries, was for me a really interesting watch. It's also a very interesting take on rehab, because it's you think like, oh, you need to call the police, like it could be out there, but then you see the effect on the person. It's just a movie that will have you have an interesting conversation after, and I think that's why I want to mention Thiele real quick. Yeah.
And then there's not just one Pixar film this year. I think both of them that have come out have been quite solid. I really enjoyed Hoppers 2. It sort of is in the typical Pixar fashion, sort of tackling a bigger subject of preserving the space for like conservation for animals, and the importance of like one thing that sort of keeps the whole thing up, the whole structure up. And that sort of representation works then well through a character, a species, the individual that's making a change. A very American type story, of course. It works here. I think it's very cute. It's probably has my favorite GIF of the year so far, with him just like sort of smiling as like the gecko. Him on the there's so many. Like Hoppers has a lot of like iconic, just for the memeability of it all, and the represent. Like sure. Sometimes we just need cute animated animals to be used as GIFs, okay? And that's okay. That's not devaluing the Pixar brand. It definitely is doing less than just dropping it on Disney Plus without additional cost. The memification of it, having these like cutesy moments within an actual story, I think they worked. Like I don't know if I prefer this over Toy Story 5 or if they're sort of the same, but I think Toy Story had a bit more to say. Par. But yeah, they're pretty much on par. But two great films to, the family entertainment on the animation front has been decent from Pixar. And it's I'm glad to see that it's not just the one that's like the fifth in a franchise, or even the sixth film in like the Toy Story saga, but one that is more original, and those haven't been doing well, especially for Disney, but also for Pixar. I'm glad this one did decently well. It didn't do incredibly well. I just really hope we get. Yeah,
I mean, it made a lot of people were saying like, "Oh my god, it's not gonna make any profit. It's not gonna break even," and like it did make some. Yeah,
similar with Elemental. It just takes a long time with these, especially because Pixar usually gets a lot of like runway with when they release stuff, because they don't release it in the middle of like peak summer unless it's a Toy Story. And then even the Toy Story, right? It just beat Monsters and Minions and Monsters. And actually, Kevin, I'm so I'm so proud of you that like that's not on your list actually, because it could have been. You forgot. You can't do it after the fact now. No. You can't do it anymore. But like it beat it commercially
like
too.
It's a 3.5. There are not a lot of 3.5s for me on here. Like only Power Ballad, I think, is maybe a 3.5 for me on here.
Yeah, and it's a 4 for me. So like that's why I think it's on here.
But next up, we got the best concert film of this year, and no, it's not Billie Eilish and James Cameron's one. It is Elvis Presley in concert. I can't believe I have a Baz Luhrmann movie, like in my, top so much of 2026. But Elvis Presley in concert was truly something to watch on the big screen. I was not, still in my seat. I hate the phrase, I hate the saying, being on the edge of the seat. Oh my God, I couldn't sit still. But with Elvis Presley's one, it truly was a fascinating thing to see. And I'm not a big fan of Baz Luhrmann. I thought the Elvis movie was dreadful. I haven't seen any other movies of his really, but the footage that they were able to uncover in this, because if the story goes that this was one, like the film rolls and the reels were like in a desert and in like a data vault, like and they finally found that footage, and that's what Elvis Presley in concert resulted in. And have you seen it, by the way, or still?
I haven't seen it yet. No, I do have it. I think I bought it, but I haven't watched it yet.
I really recommend it, man. It is, you can actually see the deterioration, the deterioration of Elvis Presley in Las Vegas, because this is where his Vegas residency that period is where they are focusing on, and you can see like in the beginning it's very slim. And the way that he talks, like his aura, like you can watch this and be like, I get it. I get why so many people were crazy about him. In the same way as something like the Beatles. Really recommended one.
And then finally on the list of like new releases, we got Nemor Urbaka Hypnik Jerks. It's a hard one to pronounce. Nemurubaka, right? That is correct.
Nemurubaka?
Yeah, well, if you say it fast, then it just sort of works, I guess. But that's by Yugo Sakamoto, whose films of the Baby Assassins trilogy and the series as well, we have really enjoyed. And I think there's still another one on the horizon. Is it him who has another one coming out this year that you were really excited for?
Yeah, Flame Union, I really hope comes out this year. It should have been out in it should have been out in theaters already the 10th of October of 2025, but it hasn't seemingly released on VOD online.
You know what goes on to disgust? He's just 2 years older than me. Like he turned 30 this. So he's old then. Okay, fuck off, Kevin. He's young. Okay, like me, I am young. He just turned 30, which I guess you can't say anymore that he's young. He's older than Curry Barker, I guess. But he's been doing these movies like since 2021, like 5 years ago when he was still 25, or like 24 even, some of the stuff. And he's just like been cranking out productions and doing this really interesting stuff. So he we focus on these stories of like the YouTube directors sort of in that lane. Yeah. But like, hey, here's a story that actually of a young director who's doing his shit just right. And I haven't seen this one yet. Keen to check it out myself. But Kevin, what do you got to say about Hypnik Jerks?
Imagine the Baby Assassins movie, but it is more about just the struggling of getting a job, of surviving, of wanting to have good food, but you still don't have the money for it.
Yeah, it's just like the opening parts of like usually those movies before we get into the craziness. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nemurubaka Hypnik Jerks is about that, but you have one person who is sort of, I'm not going to say satisfied, but can live with the fact that she is in the spot that she is in. And then you do have a friend who has talent and can actually get out of the spot, but maybe she feels sort of dragged down by her friend. And it's like, and I got to say, this has sort of a similar ending as Power Ballad, with a musical number. And yeah, I really highly recommend this one. I gotta say, Yugo Sakamoto, man, not only as a director, but also as a writer, he has done a lot of these movies. He had done a series as well called We Are Bad Barbers that I could potentially watch, which also apparently involves hitman, but now they're barbers. And it's like, you know what? Anything that this guy does, I will be there day one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and I can't wait for Flame Union because that once again involves Hitman, and it's like, yes, he sort of stays in the same realm, but he can get out of that realm also as easily, and he just writes young characters perfectly. You know how sometimes with older people, it's like that's not really how young people talk anymore. He will perfectly nail the attitudes of the young generation of a Gen Z. And it's really fun to watch as well. It's not depressing at all. It's very fun. He knows how to do dramatic moments. He knows how to do comedy. You've seen that in Baby Assassins. You can sort of see his maturity rise throughout the Baby Assassins film. That's why the third one, in that where they are going really into this adulthood, like where the stakes are finally a bit higher than when they are younger. So yeah, really highly recommend the Baby Assassins trilogy. If you have not seen it, we've talked about that as well on the channel.
For the next two categories, which we got like stuff that came out we saw last year, but came out this year, and the stuff that we saw in Gun. I think instead of going over them all of them one by one, especially for the ones in Gun, because we just released reviews for literally every single film that we saw, we'll just refer you to that review to get our thoughts. And also for a lot of these, they're not going to be out for you specifically. But hey, this is the stuff that, yes, technically has come out. Not just like the best of the year, because some of these, like, we don't know yet when they'll come out, like a Minotaur and like stuff like that. But this is stuff where, in some parts, maybe there's a bit more chatter around. So I'll give you just a rundown of the list. And then maybe if something you want to spotlight, then go for it. But I already talked about in the intro, Fatherland. That one's out in Poland and it does have a release date. Again, should be coming up by the end of the year, like worldwide. We got The Samurai and the Prisoner, which begins showing in theaters this coming week in the States. Then we got Des Gueules, which will only be screening in France, and I think it's probably going to be out of theaters sooner than
maybe on Netflix. I do see it as a Netflix movie that could be released.
They really were saying that they have no interest of showing it outside of France. So I don't know if like it would just be
maybe
on the French
theatrically,
Netflix.
but not on streaming.
I don't know, because like I literally got like screeners that are just French. They're not working on the subtitles. Maybe they changed, but I don't know. Then Hope for Hope, hashtag here, hashtag there. Kevin loves it. It's his second favorite film of the year. Streaming at festivals for the next couple of months, and then maybe towards the end of the year gets a release.
Already out in South Korea.
It will be playing in theaters already. For that in Japan, all of a sudden is probably going to be out sooner than later, and then also because it's a France co-production, I assume it's getting like a release date in August, right?
Yep.
And in June, it already got a release in Japan. That's why we're mentioning it here. Then Jim Queen is out in France. I've reviewed it, very popular, and I really adore it. I hope you get to see it soon as well. I think it's coming out in Belgium soon, right?
You already did.
Oh, it already did. Well, you got to go see it, dude. It's such a good time. The Beloved also already out in Belgium, France, and like some countries in
Spain.
the States. Javier Bardem, great performance there. In Waves, animated film that also already showed in France, and then L'Abandon. Like a lot of the French films, like Forsaken, also came out in France during the festival. Even still, well, that was on in May, and a lot of the French stuff that wasn't like particularly one of our like personal highlights have already come out, but those are sort of the films from Cannes that in some places you actually might be lucky enough to already have gotten to see them on the big screen.
Then movie that we saw last year, but it came out in cinemas this year. Either it came out or it's just about to come out. We Lost Land is a movie that we raved about, and again was one of those smaller films that we saw in that we were like, oh my god, more people need to see. It's sort of our stolen of that year, I should say. Rose of Nevada, I talked about, in my number 4 of this year so far. The Love That Remains is technically a movie of last year, but released in some territories this year. Obex, which, is a movie that you absolutely adored. I haven't seen it. Then The President's Cake, which we also have an interview of on this channel with Hassan Hadi. Great interview by Ewan, of course. Remake, we've talked about that one. Silent Friend. Hey, I know there's like a Werner Herzog movie that's gonna be in Venice, but like if you want a elephant documentary about him where he has the voiceover, that is absolutely astonishing to watch. Ghost Elephants is the one that I believe it's on Disney Plus or like National Geographic. That one. Broken English. It's also a movie that Ewan watched in Venice, starring George McKay and Tilda Swinton. Recommend that one. Yeah, Marion Faithfull. Omaha. If we're talking about an actor that never disappoints, that also had multiple movies out last year with John McGarrow. Also, probably one of the best child performances you'll see of this year. Then we have Tuner, which was a very fun movie. We reviewed that one a couple of weeks ago. We have Motor City, which is the movie that I saw in Venice last year and does have one of the best action sequences of this year as well, with an elevator. Warning, there's no dialogue in this movie. It is sort of a silent film, but it has like a very good score running throughout. I don't know how it will play on VOD and at home. Like, I do recommend seeing it in theaters. And last but not least, Lachlan Nemes had already a movie out at Cannes this year with Moulin, which comes out later this year. But if you want to watch a movie that came out at the Venice Film Festival last year, with Orphan, I would say one of the best endings once again of that year. It's just like, chills all over your body. So very much recommend that one as well.
But that wraps up our thoughts on the films of the year so far. All of them. We definitely didn't miss any of them. No, if we did, definitely let us know in the comments what some of your favorites were. Maybe some stuff that we have seen, but we actually didn't appreciate enough to mention it here. Let us know in the comments.
Let us know what your top 5 is,
Yeah, top 5s, whatever you want. When you say top 5, it's like someone's like, wait, hold up. I actually have a top 25? And they're like...
No, it's the top 26.
Well, yeah, top 26 of 2026. That is fair. We only have the one film to talk about outside of this. Not really a main review. We'll don't spend too much time on it. But a film that premiered, at festivals like even 2 years ago in 2024, it's technically dated back to that, was picked up on Telluride by Netflix and has now been sort of dumped on that platform. It's a movie by David Fritz Fortune called Color Book. Follows a father who, after the passing of his wife, he is devoted to raise his son with Down syndrome as a single parent. And while adjusting to their new reality, the two embark on a journey through Metro Atlanta to attend their first baseball game together. Just from the get-go, I do have to say, someone like William Catlett is not cast in enough roles. Like, he has a smaller role, impactful one, I guess, in Abigail, but he's, by the way, same name as in this one. He's called Lucky in this, but also in 1001, he's also called Lucky. And I was like, wait, is there some loose connection between these two movies? There isn't. But he was in Charm City Kings. He also was in Never Let Go, another film where, like, I don't know if they used him to his full potential. He's done some series work. Like, this year he was in the series Crystal Lake, which neither of us have checked out, and he's done mainly like TV where sort of he got his footing, like even dating back to like The Mentalist in 2013. He had like a guest role there. So 43-year-old actor who I feel like should have at least 10 more roles to his name by now. I don't know if like what his sort of priorities are when he's acting, but just from the quality of an actor, what he brings to this role, I want to see him in more things. Like, I don't know if you felt the same drive watching it or if the story was more focused.
Absolutely.
But to me, it was like, this guy's underrated, man.
Yeah, and I was like, where do I recognize him from? And he was in a show called Black Lightning, and that's where I recognized it from. Yeah. Like, he was in 20 plus episodes in there, but I don't know when I stopped watching that show. But Color Book, man, let me just say, there's one scene in this movie where they are on the subway. I mean, they're on the subway quite a bit in this movie, but they do meet another friend of them, and when he says like, "How are you doing, man?" and he's like, "I'm fine." And then when the guy asked the same question the second time, I was like, "Fuck, man, that's so relatable." That like, are you sure? And it's like that. That was like heart shattering, and there are a few moments in this movie that were absolutely heart shattering to me. Whether it's the symbolism with the balloon, whether it's just him trying to educate his son, like when they are waiting for the train, it's like like, hey, say this, or when they're sitting with the waitress, and it's just
well, you can feel
movie.
The dynamic that they've had before and how it needs to adjust now that the mother isn't around, and like specifically that the moment that I think you're referencing when he's not getting on the metro, something with the I think it's the aftermath of the balloon, like later on, where it leads to a scene where he says just like "mom," is like so incredible. Like I was on the verge of tears there because it was like,
yeah, man.
Oof, for that guy, is like him being asked how he's doing, sort of getting to reflect on that. While obviously he's not thinking about anything else. Like you can really feel that like that trauma is right under like the thinnest layer of his skin. It's not thick. He really is like very vulnerable, and it's not doing that sort of story, especially with like the black male masculinity, right? There's a certain stereotype to those sort of stories as well, and it doesn't really like try to subvert that overly too much, or like be too like poetic or mythic, or in any sort of way aggrandize it, but it feels incredibly grounded in just like the hurt of trying to get by after this, and just not even the idealistic thing of like getting to make this great memory for a kid. And also like I don't know, it matches the balance of like not trying to strip it down too much, of like this is very low key type of movie, other than building to something, but it also doesn't build to like something grand. That's why, like I mentioned it earlier in the episode, where it did remind me, you know, of another film that sort of it connects to that sort of feeling of just like an observation of a time that doesn't really have a beginning and an end. It does have a story running through it, and it has a through line that like it builds to something, and that's a nice feeling, but also cathartic, tragic, sad, happy, like a bit of everything. But nothing feels like overly too constructed, or like really really beautifully like observed film.
I don't really have much more to say because I want to talk a lot about the moments in this film, and like I like that spoiler, and I really much more want to say like this is a movie.
It's also a short film, right? Or no,
it's a very short film. It's made its way into my top 10 of the year so far, and I will honestly, you know, I don't know what movies I'm gonna get thrown at my head at the next couple of months, but I will honestly do my best to keep remembering this movie as well as I do, to make sure it stays into the top 26 at the end of this year. I really don't want this movie to leave. It might, you know, creep up its way even higher over the months, but I cannot, like, in terms of performances of this year, like William Catlett needs to be up there. You know, like for example, with Ray Fiennes, it's like that movie came out in January, and it's like I still want to remember that performance by the end of the year, and I have the same passion for Color Book. Like I said earlier in the podcast, sort of a spiritual successor as well. For me, you said with Killers of Sheep, right?
Killer of Sheep, yeah.
For me, it was sort of with Come On, you know, that same that same black and white thing, but then the same relationship with a an older man and a younger son, which is also sort of a tales old of cinema.
Yeah.
Trying to reconnect.
I don't know why I was thinking that like a few minutes ago. I was thinking about The Way Back, like the one with Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
Sort of they lose a kid in that story, right? It's not the partner that is lost, but there's something that like sort of, I don't know. I was also thinking that certain moments connect to that, like maybe the vulnerability of not being able to say that you're not okay, especially through the dad character. I think like having lost a partner, or the kid here is sort of different, because you're also like he's also acting with the thing of like the Down syndrome, like someone with an impediment that definitely affects like everyday interactions. And it's the same thing, like he got the hurt in that film of like having lost his kid to cancer, but also that the only people they knew is through that kid that also went through the same thing, so they're constantly reminded of it. They can't really move past it, and there's an underlying thing of like the poor parents that lost their kid. But here it's also like it's like both the guy who lost his partner, but also now has to take care of a kid that is like harder to take care of as a like it's already hard to be a single parent, but then also someone who has Down syndrome. That's the like extra layer that adds to that, to like the difficulties there. Like we never see him like out of his depth completely there. He just feels like he's exhausted, and I appreciated that it didn't lean into like this guy being incapable of being a parent figure, or a parent figure, or a bad parent figure, or someone who's trying to figure out how to be a parent because he was absent. Like it was none of that. It was just trying to like sort of work through grief while being a non-trauma inducing parent himself, right? To not add on top of what the kid has already gone through.
I did in the synopsis, the passing of his wife, and it's not the funeral. It's sort of more of a commemoration that they're doing in the park.
Yeah. Celebration of life, I think. Yeah,
a celebration of life, and you can really sense the bubble of joy. Like now, you do see Tammy, his wife, like for one scene with their son, but with that celebration of life, you can really sense just the bubble of joy that she was in the household, and that both of them are missing. And it's once again like it's something that has been done so many times in cinema, but like the way that it gets portrayed in the movie, like it adds to that weight of the loss.
Yeah.
And it's
dude, you know what the issue is with some of these films that are about like someone losing a partner or whatever, is that they do cut back to like some moments before sometimes to show you a glimpse. Some movies don't do that, but a lot of them, even this movie does that briefly. But it's more, this one here, it's more like a moment I think that he remembers. So it was like more an active moment, not of a loss to give us context, but it was something that the character feels, and we get to feel it alongside him by seeing what he remembers, right? It's different than almost like on a narrative level, giving us exposition to their relationship. And I think that often like feels like they're not confident enough to show us through the lack of what's not there, what used to be there. And this whole movie is like showing us what is not there by not showing it to us, right? To just that absence takes so much presence in this film. It's really impressive directing too.
I don't have anything else more to say than go seek out this movie. It's on Netflix worldwide. You don't have an excuse to watch this one.
No.
It's only got 2.2K logs on Letterboxd right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Pizza Movie, when we watched it, like it had like under less than 10K. Now it has 180K. So like, okay, people have discovered this movie.
We did that,
and yeah, we did that.
We did that.
And I'm sort of hoping, the same thing. Maybe not 180K, but I do hope, this movie at least has 50K at the end of the year. Like that would be my ideal goal.
Yeah, I mean, if you brought up Come On, that's a movie that got to 260K since then, but it also got Joaquin Phoenix in there. So I would say, like, if this movie gets to 50K on Letterboxd, then it has been seen by an audience that also will appreciate it. It's hopefully a movie that maybe Letterboxd itself can spotlight a bit by, like, some of their highest rated films. That's sort of where a movie like this maybe peeks through, but yeah. You're gonna keep it. It's not all the way up there as, like, my top films of the year. For you, it is. But to me, it's like a very solid, like 8 out of 10. For you, I think it's like a 9 out of 10. It's just a movie worth discovering. So
I haven't watched anything else this week besides the Color Book and the rewatch of the Odyssey. But of course, you do Odyssey. You're the madman between the two of us.
Caught.
Now you did ask me a very interesting question, which is, Kevin, what do you see happening with Dune after Dune Part 3? Because you did watch Frank Herbert's Children of Dune, the miniseries, and my answer to that is, there has been a Dune spin-off show already with Dune Prophecy. I think season 2 is happening. In fact, there has been the Dune Awakening video game. So I mean, shit has already been produced within the Dune universe since
the vast universe. Yeah. I mean, even I don't. This is not a spoiler, but like after Children of Dune, it does do a like 3,000 year time jump, I believe, or something like that. Like it jumps ahead way long. I'm not saying like what the characters are there, because I slightly know that after like at the end of Children of Dune, but I haven't read those books yet. They're behind. Me.
Yeah, point to them. Good boy.
Dune 1, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune. And I will be reading them ahead of the... Sorry, I just wanted to get my little book corner in. Book corner is here.
Yeah, I don't have any physical media, sorry.
But I watched the Frank Herbert Children of Dune series, which does adapt. They did also do the original Dune thing, which was funny because some of the actors carry over. Most of them actually, I think some of them they actually did recast. I don't know. But they did do that on the Sci-Fi Channel already. And I didn't watch that. I just jumped into basically the sequel for this. some of the funniest visuals that are just like, you would say that they're previs or like non-rendered stuff,
Like
and
in the
they're
budget.
like, it's so odd because everything looks sort of shit. So I don't know, and I think the performances are also like, a lot of them are just like random ass actor that act in this, maybe in 5 other things, and then never again. Apart from the one or the other outlier who's quite a big actor now. It is adapting the story. That's all I can give it. That's not doing more than that. It's got James McAvoy, who plays Leo Atreides, which has been cast as a kid in Dune Part 3. He's not a part of Dune Messiah though, like the book. So they cast ahead, and they're probably gonna have these like visions that connect back to it. Because technically there's some like back and forth, which again I can't get into it, otherwise that's a spoiler.
We'll get into it in December.
Oh, dude, we will like sandworm dive. We will get into it so much. I got a lot to say about this, and it was interesting to see like how a movie like how a story like this can be adapted, and I can already see the departures that he's making, especially in the opening and sort of the in-between that story leaves. And here, this is a lot of like people inside a room talking and stuff, and there's no nuance here. It really is just like as efficiently adapting this as you can. In basically like 3 feature-length movies. It's like 3 1.5 hour long movies. The first one does Dune Messiah, and then the second 2 episodes are Children of Dune.
It's more occupied with the politics, I'm guessing then?
Not even, I don't know. I guess, yeah. Because Children of Dune is a lot of politics and a lot of ousting. But like Children of Dune and actually no, well, the way that he wrote the story, like Frank Herbert had this thing with this trilogy of like sort of the Messiah, the sort of downfall of the inverse, like the hero story, the inverse story, and then sort of I don't know how he said it, but like the conclusion to this. And that's how the story sort of plays out, which is interesting that he's only doing Dune Part 3 and specifically not calling it Dune Messiah. I'm wondering if he like sort of skips ahead and does parts of, because also a big change here. This is the mildest spoiler, but not really. It's just about the age of something. I'm gonna divert, like in Children of Dune. In Children of Dune, the kids for the whole story are 8 years old, or like 6 years old, or 5 year old, or something. And here they cast teenage James McAvoy, so it's not the same. And technically, if he's more accurate to the actual story of the text, and he only cast little kids there, like that are 5, 6, or 7 years old, then he could technically also do Children of Dune in Dune Messiah, because Villeneuve is ending it with this one, right? He's not gonna do
but I get it though. But have you seen how many movies he had in pre-production?
Oh,
he was like, I want to do that sci-fi movie. I want to do the Cleopatra movie.
Amazon is like, James Bond, please, come on. When are you working on that? But I can't really recommend watching Children of Dune, like that sci-fi show. Just read the books. The books are actually like these 2 books, and especially Dune Messiah, such a short book. They're very good. I'm looking at the audience, not as you, because at this point, we had a previous co-host, Lachlan, famously couldn't read. And now I'm putting into question, can you read, Kevin? Because I haven't seen, when's the last time you finished the book?
I'm still going through the Johnny Toe one.
Yeah. Sorry. That was a needless attack. I know, but I just feel like, I feel a bit.
And I shut you down again, bro. Bah!
Well, I can still, call you out for not finishing a book, which I did 30 times.
Yeah, but the reason I haven't finished this is because it talks about some Johnny Toe books in depth, and it's like I want to watch that one first before getting to the chapter.
I remember when he said he wants to read the Odyssey before his next rewatch, but I guess he's doing another 2 rewatches of the Odyssey, so maybe there's
exactly
to read the Stephen Fry.
I still have time till the end of August.
Sure. It's like me with the first 2 Dune movies, where I was like, I'll read the books, never did, and then I did it all just like in January.
You know what? We've talked about, a lot of, comedies, rom-com, and the fact that there aren't any good ones lately anymore. But I remember being quite surprised by +1, and you watched it. So
yeah, another sort of showcase for an actress that is underrated. Maya Erskine is someone who really doesn't appear in a ton of stuff. I think she does voice acting because she has a very like distinct, well, I wouldn't say distinct voice, but like a perfect animated voice, right? She can tap into that quite naturally, and she was in the Mr. and Mrs. Smith series with Donna Glover. I think she's quite charming in here, although I don't really buy these two as having any chemistry. Her and Jack Quaid in a story where like basically over a summer they got like weddings lined up. It's like the wedding, like it's sort of the rom-com as premise to give the sort of guardrails, and then you let things play out, and obviously like the sort of expected beats go down.
Yeah.
But it's pretty charming. It was like, to me, honestly, one of the bit more forgettable rom-coms in the last couple of years. I don't think this is like a huge standout. I think it was just kind of fine. It's okay.
But I'm guessing the reason that you saw this one is because it is co-directed by Jeff Chan, who I just saw is writing the Hello Kitty movie in 2028.
Of course, that was my reason, not because it was just randomly on Netflix.
No, but also because it's directed by Andrew Reimer, who is directing All That She Wants, which appears later at TIFF, starring Cooper Raiff. So,
actually, yeah, that was the reason I watched it. You figured it out. You're like a detective. Yeah, I was looking at that and was like, oh, actually, it makes sense that Cooper Raiff, instead of Sundance, I guess he goes to TIFF over like a European festival, but I would have been interested to see All That She Wants. But
I know you asked me only to ask about two films, but I'm gonna quickly add Blue Film in there. Haven't seen it myself. Quick thoughts.
That's a crazy one. I don't know if you can do that in quick thoughts. So it's two characters in this movie, right? It's only Red Burney and Kieran Moore in this, where like one of them is the movie opens literally with him like cam streaming and calling all of his viewers like the F slur again and again, like disgusting F slurs, like in that sort of sense, to get a rise of being this very like emasculating them as viewers, as calling them like these horrible things, like sexual violence being threatened, like a lot of that sort of and it
like
then
dominating thing.
It goes beyond dominating actually. And then it really is like a disgusting film in the way that it sort of goes about the really, really ugly layers of people. When there's a twist around it that I can't really talk about, the dynamic that these two have, because it's Red Burney and an older guy who like basically invites him over, and which he does sort of these calls to then do whatever they want, sort of usually degrading and dominating them. He just wants to talk to him in a way, so it becomes that sort of breakdown of these walls to talk about like. And then it doesn't really go the expected route of like sort of growing closer in a way, I felt, but more not that these guards like remain up, but like it becomes these confessions and of vulnerability and of sexuality and this eroticism in the sort of taboo, what's not okay, but also still indulging in them. Like this movie is incredibly dense in what it tries to depict without giving you a clear outline of what's right and wrong. And instead of just like it lets it play out in a lot of ways. Really interesting, deeply upsetting, I gotta say. Really, really upsetting. And I think, some people like really adore this sort of stuff. I am a bit closed off towards it. Because
is it out of your comfort zone, perhaps, this one?
Well, I mean, I'd sort of have to spoil like what if one of them is to give the premise. And I don't know if I should do that. Like,
okay, you know what? Keep it for when I see it. Maybe
because now it just sounds like I don't like a story because they're both gay, but that's not the case.
No.
There's something different that's going on with the older character, but also with the younger one, and like it's about honesty and who you truly are, and it really they have like it's basically one long conversations and conversation. There's a lot in there. It's an interesting film and only 85 minutes.
You did say this movie is incredibly dense, but it's only 85 minutes?
Yeah. Like the seriousness of the topics they discuss and sort of they sort of break down the sort of cultural like walls of like not talking about certain things. And then it's not from a place of vulnerability. It also plays with like the physical walls that you can still keep up because you can like dominate someone physically still and sort of have that power. It's like who holds power over whom and what position. I don't know. It's like it's hard to talk about, man. This whole movie needs like a sort of a breakdown of someone who takes a deeper look at it. It's like I said, pretty dense.
Right. Well, do you want to talk about any other ones?
No, I love you. I know you love the Dink because it's about pickleball. But that's over on Apple now. So
fuck that.
And I did catch up with Congo Boy, which we missed in Cannes. Got a screener for it. Unfortunately, it was a bit like underwhelming. I think it sort of was like the festival type movie. I like the story, but not like a highlight that would go beyond like shouting it out here. And then I did watch Moana, the live action one, and that was as dreadful as everyone's. Actually, I felt it was slightly less dreadful than everyone made it out to be, because it is 1-to-1, just like a remake. The songs are good.
Yeah.
So, and there's some moments that like the ending still resonates, even if it's CGI.
Can I ask, does the live action one does anything, like, does it do anything just slightly better than the animated one?
I think the what can you say except you're welcome does not, like, the people have been saying everything is 1-to-1. I don't know if I don't have that like as clear in memory, but I thought this one expands it a bit more into like, you know, into the showiness of it all. It's also I don't think this is rude to say, I don't think the lead performance is very good. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is also such a but in that specifically, like this is sort of lightheartedness to it all, where she's like in that sequence, for example, she constantly is like smirking and smiling. So the dynamic of like her being this like, no, take me to this place, and like sort of finding herself in it and growing into a leader herself is, it feels a bit undercut here, where it's just like, oh, we're going on this expected boat trip that we already know where it's going to lead to. Like, it already feels like the characters in the story know where it's going, like it's based on something else, if that makes sense. But yeah, best live action adaptation of the year so far, I think, because there hasn't been any other one. So by merit of that, it's going to be second to Look Back, I guess, by the end of the year, if we don't get any other ones. I'm probably forgetting one that already came out, but yeah, that wraps up for this week. Yeah, there's gotta be one. I'm refusing to engage with it and actually figure it out. Just like making a blank dumb statement. But
what can people expect the next couple of weeks?
Well, we are gonna work on a preview for the rest of the year now that we sort of talked about the best stuff that we've seen. I think we're gonna leave off the stuff. I don't know. It's going to be difficult to decide like what's on. Well, we already mentioned it here as something that's come out, but might come out in other places. Do we go by the release date schedule of the states, or I don't know. Yeah. That's something to figure out for future us. But we're gonna preview the rest of the year with the highlights. Spoiler alert: Dune is going to be very high up for me. The Werewolf as well. But that should be coming out later this week. Sorry, next week, I guess, because this is still the week time. And then next week on August, first week of August, we're going to talk about the new Spider-Man, Brand New Day, as well as Avatar Aang that just came out, that unfortunately leaked beforehand.
Just came out.
Yep. And then also The Death of Robin Hood came out on VOD. You haven't caught up with that one, so you gotta see that one. I'm sure you'll make time for it soon. And then Leviticus apparently is also out on VOD this week, or this coming week, so we'll be chatting about that one as well. So another dense review episode coming up next week. And then we're not going to announce the whole lineup yet, but because we are heading into Venice, we got accreditation sorted. We'll be attending the full festival there. Gonna screen around 70 movies, probably, maybe even more than 70, and review all of those. But in the lead up to that, there's a few filmmakers who will be discussing in the 2.54 centimeter barrier. Again, I think in the first episode of like that whole lineup, we'll announce like all the films that we'll be discussing, but just a bit of a tease that we'll have like, I think 7 episodes or so in the next like 7 weeks after this coming next one, that will all pertain some sort of element of like, ooh, this filmmaker has a movie that's going to be screening at the festival, or this movie is about a filmmaker at the festival. I got to clarify that because there's one in there. But that brings us to the end of this week's discussion. I hope you had a few films that we were able to suggest for you to watch. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
Nope, we're good.
No? Okay, well then we'll see you next week, and I say cut!